you know, it's been a year and a half or so since we've been able to do this, to sort of go out and find athletes. Globally, we haven't been able to do it, you know. I mean, I guess it's been a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer than that now. Seems like it's been a lifetime, but you know, the starting of live events back up was sort of a step in the right direction, and obviously that's a minute by minute. But for me and what we do, having this moment, being able to come in here, having 38 talent from all over, from all different walks of life. I mean, you know, when you really break this down, sort of 90% of these people probably never stepped through the ropes before in their life, which it's hard, I think, probably for all of you to appreciate coming in here. Like as they were starting to run through the drills when you first got here, I was thinking, man, I wish we could have played like a little video of them walking in the ring for the first time yesterday in the morning when none of them could hit the ropes. They, you know, we were trying to teach them how to do a forward roll, and they just could not do it. And you know, to see the progression that this team can get them through in a very short, less than 48-hour period of time, to where they're doing what they did here in front of you today, and doing it well and fast, and you know, everything else is amazing. And that was a very short period of time. So the level of talent that we're here today, of athletes, of entertainers, of people willing to, you know, that have just had this dream their whole life, of probably for most of them of doing this in some manner, who grew up watching it with their mom or their dad or their brothers and their sisters, and have dreamed of this moment. We just sat in a room and had a large conversation with quite a handful of them and offered them contracts to come train with us in Orlando. And the amount of emotion that comes out of moments like that, where it's sort of hard to put into words how much that means to people and their journey to get to where you are today. So for me, coming out of this whole COVID, you know, situation, and you know, we not only could not recruit athletes for a year, we didn't train athletes for a year and a half. Only a few months ago that we were able to really begin, because of medical protocols, begin training again at the Performance Center on a regular basis. So everybody that was in our sort of our camps already, if they'd been doing this for 6-8 months, all of a sudden they stop doing it for a year and a half, and they go right back to where they were before they ever started doing it. And then, you know, you're kind of starting over with them. So it's a tough, hard, long couple of years it's been for all of them and for us. And when you're used to being able to sit in a room and tell people like that, you're going to get a shot at your dream, and then they're going to get to work hard at their dream, and they want to go out there and do everything they can to do it, and you just can't let them. It's tough. So this was a really cool couple of days that surely will get capped off by, you know, SummerSlam at a stadium and TakeOver and everything else. But to me, this is really what we do. The performances, all those things, that will happen. What we do here in talent development is what we did the last 2 days, and it was just, man, it was refreshing to get back out there and be able to give people that opportunity again. So
now we'll take a couple questions. Raise your hand if you got one. We'll start with Denise.
Roughly how many talents were offered contracts here today?
I didn't count. So you said roughly.
An estimate.
We had 38 talent here today. We had one dropout from yesterday to today. We had an injury, and then we had another, not dropout, but just we cut training short on today. And I'd say somewhere in the ballpark of somewhere between like 13 and 16, I'd say.
Oh wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of passion here in the last couple of days, and a lot of drive, and clearly we're looking for something different. You know, you'll hear Vince say it a lot. So sound wrong to a lot of people, but it's right. I'm not looking for professional wrestlers. I'm looking for superstars. I'm I'm looking for somebody that can break through that. The rest of it takes care of itself. You're looking for the diamond in the rough. You're looking for the 1 in a million. You're looking for those things. That's the difficult part. The other part takes care of itself, and it happens. And you go about that process. So to me, right now, it's about giving opportunities. And there was a lot of people here that have the tools, to break through, that stood out when they walked in the room. You're like, all right, who's that? You know, they had that some type of it factor, and then proved it to us here that how much they wanted it. And I think in this moment in time to be able to go a little bit beyond and bring in some people and give them that shot. Are they all going to make it? No. It's a long, hard journey. But if everybody made it, it wouldn't be that special when you got there, right? So somewhere between that 13, 16 numbers where we were. We sat in that room just now. We talked to them beforehand. Some are going to get talked to. This is going to be the bump in the road. There was one person that has been here before with us trying this and come back and made changes and, you know, sort of had the tools before but really wasn't in a position to be able to take advantage of it. Now they are. That's exciting. So this was an exciting couple of days on so many levels, from us of being able to do what we do, but also for people like, I don't know, it's just being able to go back out there and whether they succeed or not, to be able to put the opportunity for somebody to go have that moment in their life where they get the shot. And that's all they're asking for. Take the shot. We're giving them the shot, so here they go. You know, and today was a cool day for that.
So when you're here and you're looking at all this talent right now, there's a lot of talk about, you know, the way NXT, the talent NXT is bringing in right now, possibly shifting a bit. Are you looking more for people that have a background in independent wrestling, or are you looking more for athletes that you can mold to make superstars right now?
So it's a funny thing. People talk about the shifting of what it is. It never really shifted. Right? So if you go back and you look at the hiring process, not hiring process of television show, hiring process of who we were looking to train and make WWE superstars, right? Long term. If you go back and you look at that, it hasn't shifted. It's been the same process. I don't negate anybody, right? And from a standpoint of like, well, I wrestled some independent stuff. Well, all right, you're out. You know, like that's not a factor to me. But it's also not the factor that makes me go, okay, you're in. Right? When they get here today, if somebody hits the ropes perfectly every time, does every roll perfect, does all the stuff, looks easy because they've been training and all this, it's not really showing me anything. You know what I mean? You should be able to. If you've been training, you've been working indies, you should be able to do all that. It's to me, what is the potential long term? What is that potential? And are they willing to do the work to live up to that potential, right? So, and again, I'm not saying we haven't hired people for differently the long way. It's a, you know, Vince used to always say we're a variety show, right? We are in some manner. You need a little bit of everything,
Sure.
you know, and I think that's the key to all of this. But people hear statements, so they make one. Now it's that. No, now it's this. Now it's that. It's all of it. It always has been, you know.
Cool. Thank you.
So, with me? Yep. So one of the newest phases that we saw here today as part of the recruitment process, Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
What does he bring to the table? With this being one of the first tryouts he's been a part of on this side of the fence.
You always need a Samoan. You know what I mean? The big angry Samoan. Joe was in here yesterday, and it was a funny moment where everybody was working really hard. It's hard on the first session sometimes to get past the respect, right? So everybody's being respectful, and then you're trying to fire them up and get everybody motivated, and then it works for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they go back to being respectful. And there was a moment where I was sitting at the table, and all of a sudden I heard Joe go off. And I looked up, and Joe was like, just, his mask was down, he was just going off. He was over here, but everybody was over here in these rings going off. And I looked up, and there was like this look of all these people back, and I was like, well, we're about to find out who folds under pressure. You know, because it's a different level of, Regal's not gonna yell at you. You know what I mean? He barely talks loud enough for you to hear him. So it's interesting. Joe brings something to the table that is different. But Joe's one of those guys that through my career, as I've been around people, there are certain people I look at for, I think like, man, he'd be really good at this. Like, the right mindset for it. And he and I would always talk. I didn't know him before he came to WWE, but when he came in NXT, when he came in to WWE, we'd talk a lot of, through the day and all this stuff. And I would, man, he's just a business savvy guy. He thinks about things in a different way, long-term business. It's not small-minded. It's not just in ring. He's not looking at just like, oh, that guy's a good technician. That guy's, he's a different sense, larger picture thinking. And I just think that when he's done here, there's a role for him doing something much bigger. And I've had that conversation with a lot of people in the company to say there's only a few people I've ever really said like, oh, that guy, this person, like, could do anything in this company because of the way they think of the business, and he's one of them. So when the opportunity came for me to be able to work with him behind the scenes, and that's really sort of when everybody talks about, Joe was going from not an in-ring performer, and then I came along and grabbed him. It was nothing like that. It was a long-term conversation that was happening prior to that, and then the timing of it just made it appear a certain way, but he and I had been talking about it. So it was an opportunity to work with him from a business standpoint. What is he? He's a little bit of everything, but he's sort of like a Regal where he could sit here today and I can have a conversation with him after, and he's talking about everything that people are bringing to the table in this. Not do I think they're technically sound, not, whatever. He talked about every aspect of it and what works, what doesn't, what needs to happen. You send him places he can represent, right? All those things. That's really where he's at. So thrilled to have him.
All right, one more. We'll do Russ.
How do you think you would handle a tryout like this? Because obviously...
Right now? I'd probably have a heart attack.
Your
They'd
first...
be carting me out to the local medical.
But like your first 48 hours, so to speak, you obviously train differently.
Yeah.
But like coming into this, what would a young Triple H, would you have gotten the contract, you think? What kind of feels?
So I believe that most of the people that succeed in this business succeed for a reason. And that reason is enough that would have succeeded, that allowed them to succeed at any time in the business, because for whatever reason it was, there's very few people that end up someplace long term in this business that you go like, they sort of kind of just ended up there. You know what I mean? That passion, that desire, that all those things. You can't put yourself in positions or situations that you don't know where they are, because we don't know where they are, right? But I do know that, especially in that time frame when I was trying to make it, I wanted it. So yeah, they'd have had to cart me out of here. You know what I mean? Like they would have had to cart me out in the ambulance to get me to stop. So would I have made it? Yes. Would everybody else that's sort of come along in that manner made it? Yeah, would they? But to me, it's a funny thing. It's not about finishing the squats. You learn a lot about people in those moments. How they handle it, how they react to it, all that stuff, right? Like, one of the things I was proud of the last 2 days, the loudest moments in this room for all those talent were moments when somebody was struggling. Moments when somebody couldn't finish something and was in a ring struggling to pull themselves back up to hit the ropes 2 more times because that's what they had left. And this place was going crazy for them to try to get them over that hurdle, right? Like, that's awesome. And today, in this world, that kind of unity, right? Like, it's where it's at, So I was really proud of that, but I do believe that people that make it, that stuff, they make it because they want to do whatever it takes to make it. That'll transcend any generation, any hurdle, I don't care what it is, They'll make it. Let's do one more. Go to this side, because you did them all over here. All right. Lopsided. I feel funny. I feel like I'm...
Well, first of all, thank you for your time, Triple H.
Sure.
You were talking about the it factor that helped somebody make it in this business, but Is it the same it factor for a male and a female superstar, or are there any specifics you look for each other?
People use that term, it factor, X factor, charisma. It's hard to put your finger on what it is, right? Sometimes I feel like for women there's this emphasis on, you know, oh man, she looked like $1 million when she walked in here, right? Dressed a certain way or makeup a certain way, hair a certain way, doing all those things. It's important. At the end of the day, though, like, it's more personality to me. It's more like, I don't care if somebody doesn't have the money and they don't wear makeup and they don't, you know, present yourself well, but you don't have to have high dollar hair extensions and a bunch of makeup on and do all these other things and high dollar clothes to come in here and go like, oh, they got it. And to me, it almost has nothing to do with it. It's personality. It's how they engage with you. It's how they connect with you. They make you feel something when you see them when they're working. What's that connective? What's that connection point that you have with these people? Do you feel something from them? Do they engage you in some manner? Some people, you don't see that when they're here. Some people, red light goes on and they got it all. I'm sure you've heard people say that, like, oh, camera loves him. Yeah, they take great pictures. I've seen that a lot too, where you get to a tryout, you're like, this person looks great. And then they get there and they're like, when do they get in? You know, like, it's not the same person. In person, it doesn't resonate. On camera, you know, it does. There's factors to that, but it's not an image thing. That'll fade. I feel like that's part of the process of the 2-day journey or the 3-day journey or the 4-day journey, depending on the tryout style that we're doing. Yes, somebody walks in the room, those things might catch your eye for a minute, and then very quickly, that person's not really doing anything else, and this person is, and they don't have any makeup on, and they don't have any hair done, and they don't have, right? So it's never those other things. You can look past those. What's really in here, right? That's what it factor, charisma, all those things. I don't know, there's a, part of that is a passion and a connection to the person. And if you feel that, then that person has charisma. That person has an it factor. And for me, that's it. It's funny. I look at these tryouts, I think sometimes totally differently, and I find myself catching myself looking back at the same person in the first half of the first day. I find myself constantly looking back at that same person for some reason, right? Or the same, you know, 10, 15, whatever people. Like constantly find myself catching myself interested in what they're doing, and if I mentally see that, I put a check there. Check that person out 10 times. I keep seeing that person do this. They might be terrible, might have, you know what I mean? It's all those things, but I keep going back to it. There's a reason, drawn my eye for whatever reason. I don't have to figure out what that. I don't have to be able to tell you what that reason is. I just got to know it's there. So I don't know. I still get a little bit differently, but that's a factor. Is it different for men and women? It's different for every single person. Doesn't matter, man, woman, doesn't matter. It's different for everybody. You just got to be open to it. That's all.
Thanks.
Thank you guys all for being here. I really appreciate you coming to this. I appreciate everybody being out here for the week and SummerSlam. And it's been a tough year and a half for everybody, right? And I respect the effort and what you guys go through to cover, to talk about, to do, to be a part of what we do. So thank you guys for doing it, and it means a lot. So please, thank you, keep it up, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Good?
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Woo!
All good.
Thank you.